Hello class, I wanted to give you a brief lecture video on the web usability process. And this is a process with a number of steps that you can follow when you're designing a website. It also applies to graphic design in a lot of ways as well. But this is specifically a web usability process. And you can download this document if you want, the Word document for this process. Basically, it's divided up into 7 stages. What I'll do is just highlight the stages quickly, show you a few examples, and then you can do a little more research on your own if you want, or you can just use it as a guide to follow. This is a process that you would follow if you were going to design a site for a client or for yourself, but it works better as like in a business setting if you were going to design for a specific business or client, or even a friend's website or something. So it starts out with defining the mission of your website and the target user population. Let me switch over to Chrome. Now I've got a few websites open here. I've got a couple educational websites, college websites, eBay, an e-learning website, and then a kids website. So we can kind of look at these sites just quickly to illustrate some of the steps in this process. So the first one, again, defining the goal of the website. When you're first starting out with your site, you have to determine what it's going to do. Is it going to be educational? Is it going to be e-commerce, news, like CNN or something, or for kids or e-learning? You have to define what it's going to do, and you also have to define the audience for it. So an audience like this PBS Kids, that's pretty well defined. Yours may be a little broader than that, or it may be specific. For example, some of the companies I've worked for, I've done intranet websites. So if you're doing a site like that, you have a very specific audience and you know exactly who that is. So the audience is going to determine what the site is going to look like, how it's going to be designed, as well as the mission of the site also. So that's stage one. Collect the user requirements would be to determine what is going to, or what are your users' characteristics. So where are they located? What's the experience in the background? So like kids, they may have different experience than adults when it comes to the internet. The environment, you may be able to find out the computing environment, such as what kind of connections your audience has to the internet. If everyone's using broadband, or if you still have people using dial-up, or if you have everyone on the intranet that has a really fast connection. So you have to determine that. Benchmarking what other sites are out there. That's actually very important. If you're going to design a website, it's important for you to determine what other sites would be out there. So if you take the example of UK has never been very good with their site designs. They get better and better, so they are, in making improvements, but they're never used as a really good model, of an educational website. And I say that as an alumni. I've attended UK for undergraduate and graduate, but IU is always used as an example of one of the best educational sites out there. And if you compare the two of them, you'll see kind of immediately the differences. So, if you're going to benchmark this, IU would be a good benchmark for a good educational site. One thing you'll notice here on the right, they have students, alumni, and donors. So they have what's called audience splitting. And then they have very clear, concise drop-downs, not overwhelming. 2 main menus on the page right here. Most of the site design falls above this scroll line here, and the site doesn't scroll very long. If you compare that to UK, the different audiences don't immediately jump out. Here's current students, but that has another drop down, and that's mixed in with athletics, research, and all of that. You've got, I see at least 3-4 menus on here. A menu at the top right here. The drop downs are not. The drop downs cause some problem. When you drop down here, you run into a pop out here. You've got drop downs, a lot of links on here, and then you've got flyouts over here, changing the entire picture. Scroll down, you've got a lot more information on here. Okay, there's some audience splitting, but that's down. You have to scroll down to get to it. So if you compare the two sites, you'll see a lot. You can really see web usability and design sort of illustrated with these two sites. And I hate to say it, but this IU site is just a whole lot more usable than the UK site. Okay, back to the document here. Okay, so that kind of falls into collecting user requirements like benchmarking, determine who's going to be looking at it. Can you do surveys? Can you find some potential users for the site? That can be difficult, but that's something you need to think about. So the first two steps are kind of determine what the goal or the mission of the site is and who's going to be looking at the site, because that determines how you're going to design it. Okay, step 3 is the conceptual design of your website. So that would be like information architecture, site navigation, and your location of your menu. So most sites that we look at, if you look at the university sites, the menus are at the top or the left-hand side of the screen. If you look at eBay, same thing. eBay is designed to be very usable, user-friendly, and clear and simple. This site is interesting to look at. It's, the focus is e-learning. It's these educational videos and lessons, and it's a pretty simple website. This one is a little bit outside of that design because it's for a different audience, so it doesn't have that traditional menu. These little buttons, actually, the little illustrations are menu items. So the conceptual design would be for you to figure out what you want the site to look like. That might include a mock-up design, drawing it out on paper, getting together some designs that you like as examples, and then start to just kind of lay out the site, what you want it to look like. Could be in your head, get a design, get the colors, things like that. Determine where the menu is going to be. Do you need to have a logo up there the whole time? That's conceptual design. And that's where you also be choosing things like your fonts, colors. If you're working for a company, I've done a few projects for UK, they have a specific font and exact color and logo that you have to stick by. You probably knew that, if you're going to be designing for a business, but you have to be careful about that. Step 4 is the physical design of the site. That's kind of what we're learning right now. Now, you'll have hand coding, which focuses obviously on HTML, CSS, maybe some JavaScript. If you're doing any kind of a site with a backend, like a database, you might be doing some PHP. If you want to move into WYSIWYG software like Dreamweaver, that's something that works for this particular stage. Photoshop would be considered part of this because you're doing, actually working with the physical design of the site. And then you also might weigh some other options. For example, content management systems like WordPress. That's a very popular way to design a website right now. Very structured approach to it. You can actually make it look how you want, but most of the sites have a very sort of a template look to them, and then the content is going to come from usually a database. So that's an option. We'll talk more about WordPress and content management systems a little later this semester. So you actually design the site. So once the site is designed, you would perform usability testing, and the best way to do that is to get together a small group of your audience, of your target audience, and have them look at the site. If you can't get the target audience, you'd want to get your friends or family and have them look at the site. So for example, if you had a target audience for UK site, they'd probably find some things like this. So for example, when I go to academics and I pull down here and then I accidentally go off of that, that's a little disorienting because it goes to another pop-up. So you might you might have them try to find a specific task. So if you say, well, I want to find an academic calendar, okay, well, that's easy. So they've done a good job with that. Maybe I want to find out about programs, so I'll go to academics. They have the colleges divided here. Where do the faculty go if they're on this site? That could be a problem. You have to scroll down to get to the faculty link. Just little things like that. You might have them try the site out, have them try to find things. So that would be usability testing, very important step. And then you have to incorporate that feedback also. That's the whole purpose of it. You're going to be looking at the site so long, whether it's a full website or just doing the graphics for the website, or if it's a graphic design piece, you'll be looking at it so long that you'll probably lose perspective on it. You need to get other people's perspective and ideas on it. Okay, after the site is done, then you're into the implementation and marketing of your website phase. So this would be where you're going to host the site. You may have your own server. Most people rent some hosting space on a site. It could be like GoDaddy.com or another hosting site, Yahoo.com. There are thousands and thousands of them out there, but you pay a monthly fee, buy a domain name, and then you can host your website at this site. And then if you're going to do marketing, marketing is really big now. Social media, are you going to use YouTube, Facebook, any of those sites for your marketing? You're going to go rely more on traditional print marketing, or you're going to try to work on search engines, optimization, try to get a pay for position. You can buy or rent keywords so that when someone types in a keyword, your site's going to pop up number one. You can optimize your site so that it does go up higher on the search engine results. But if you have a common site where you have some competition, you may have to consider a pay for position type of option. The biggest thing that is going to keep people coming back to your site will be updating your content. So content updates. So if you look at any site that's successful, the universities do update their sites a lot. You obviously come back to eBay because it's updated. Same thing here for like this Khan Academy, CNN. The sites that get a lot of hits are usually the sites that are updated a lot. So content is going to be your most important feature of your site. And content is very important for your website. For example, back on stage 2, collecting the user requirements for your site, you need to kind of determine where's that content going to come from. Do you have existing content? Do you have to develop the content yourself, or will the company develop it for you? And will it be updated? So it's so important that you update your sites. And then just evaluate how it's working. Is it getting hits? Is it getting positive feedback? Is it time to redesign the site? Sites do need to be refreshed every year or two, maybe more depending on how much traffic you're getting. So a lot of things to consider. So this is a very quick overview for you of the tasks involved. You can search for this online, or you can just use this as a guide. But if you follow this guide, say you get a freelance job and you follow this guide, I guarantee that your site will have a better chance of succeeding, and you'll have a better chance of making your client happy when you follow these stages. So that's it for this brief lecture on the web usability process.